After the Battle of Tobruk in June 1942, the Axis forces under the command of General Field Marshal Rommel advanced deep into Egypt, threatening the British Empire's control of the Suez Canal, which was vital for quick supply of British troops in Africa and the Middle East. But Rommel's offensive was halted at the Allied defensive line of El Alamein. The Axis forces were short on supplies and the majority of their tanks were Italian with poor armor. Rommel was aware that the initiative has passed on the Allies and dug in to expect an attack. As the 8th Army, now under the command of General Bernard Montgomery, was building up its forces for an offensive, Rommel used this time to fortify a 65-kilometer front and light 500,000 mines to slow down Allied troops as much as possible. Rommel returned to Germany for medical treatment and was still absent when the battle began. By mid-October, the 8th Army could deploy 195,000 men and 1,000 tanks, including 300 of newly arrived Sherman tanks from the United States. The Axis was defending with 160,000 men and 547 tanks low on fuel. This meant that their operational freedom, which was essential for desert warfare, was limited. The battle began on the night of 23rd of October with a massive artillery barrage that lasted 5 hours. The infantry in the north moved forward and stopped in front of the mines until the sappers could clear a path for the tanks. Progress was slower than planned, and by dawn all units in the sector stopped after the tanks stirred up so much dust that there was no visibility at all. At the same time, the 7th Armored Division, together with the Free French Brigade, made a secondary attack hoping to break through and engage the 21st Panzer Division and the Italian Ariete Armored Division to keep them occupied in the south. The Allies met determined resistance from the Axis airborne units. At the end of the day, the Axis line was still intact. On the 24th of October, Rommel was ordered to return to the front after General Stumm, who was temporarily in command, suffered a heart attack and died. The Allies spent the day clearing the minefields to open more paths through them. At dusk, Axis tanks from the 15th Panzer Division and Italian Littorio divisions attacked the 1st Armored Division. About 50 tanks from both sides were destroyed in this skirmish. Jeff Hayward, a machine gunner of the Middlesex Regiment and veteran of the battle, remembers, "Not long after we had finished digging in, literally dozens of Sherman tanks of the 2nd Armored Brigade appeared a few hundred yards behind us and stopped, unable to get through the minefield due to the lack of cleared gaps. Then to our horror, tanks of the 15th Panzer and Littorio divisions appeared from behind the ridge in front of us, about 2 miles away. They advanced with the sun at their backs and the opposing armored forces proceeded to open fire. We were stuck in the middle with the solid shot armor piercing shells passing about 6 feet above our heads. The thrust of the 10th Armored Division that night failed when the leading tanks were caught in an air attack and then scattered. In the south, the 44th Division opened a path through the minefields, but when the 7th Armored Division passed through, they came under fire and lost 31 tanks. On the 25th of October, Montgomery decided to press the attack with the 9th Australian Division. The 1st Armored Division was ordered to support the Australians by covering their left flank. Across the rest of the front, the Allies limited themselves on patrolling until a breakthrough could be achieved in the north. When the sun set, the Allied infantry resumed the attack. The 51st Highland Division made progress, and the 9th Australian Division captured an artillery observation post and took 250 prisoners. Fighting continued in this area for the next week, as the Axis tried to recover the hill that was so important to their defense. Meanwhile, in the Axis headquarters, Rommel was back and evaluated the situation. The Trento Division had lost half of its infantry and almost all of its artillery. The 15th Panzer Division had 31 operational tanks remaining. The 164th Light Division had lost 2 battalions. All other units were already under strength, and the men were on half rations, many of them sick. Their remaining fuel was enough for only 3 days. Rommel realized that Montgomery concentrated his efforts in the north and moved most of his armored units there. Montgomery, on the other hand, decided to stop all assaults in the south after suffering heavy casualties and continued the process of attrition in the north. On the 27th of October, Rommel launched a major counterattack with German and Italian tanks, but was defeated. On the 28th, he attempted again to take the initiative and failed. The 9th Australian Division continued fighting the 19th Light Division while advancing parallel to the coast. By the 1st of November, Rommel knew that all hope was lost and began to plan the retreat. On the 2nd of November, Montgomery launched Operation Supercharge with the 10th Armoured Division and the 2nd New Zealand Division. The result of the operation was mayhem for the Allies. The 9th Armoured Brigade charged with 123 tanks, and the Germans destroyed almost a whole unit with their long-range anti-tank guns. But these losses barely changed the situation of the battle. On the 4th of November, Rommel ordered all German units to retreat. The Italian infantry units were left behind to their fate due to the lack of transportation. The Allies tried to pursue with the 1st and 7th Armoured Divisions, but the Italian Armoured Divisions blocked them and were wiped out in the battle that followed. The Second Battle of Alamein was the turning point of the war in North Africa, and the defeat of the remaining German forces was only a matter of time.